When I found out I was pregnant, I went straight to the GP and she confirmed it. And then I had a booking-in appointment at 8 weeks with the midwife. And because it was my second pregnancy, I was told that I wouldn't have as many appointments as the first time round. So the next contact I had was the 12-week scan, and that all went well. So the next appointment was the 20-week scan, but it felt like quite a long gap, and my previous pregnancy had been 10 years earlier, so I didn't really remember what it felt like to be pregnant. If you're having a really good pregnancy, you don't have any symptoms or you don't feel hormonal, as I didn't, it's a really long time to go without contact, and I did start to get a bit anxious, and so my partner and I made an appointment with the midwives, and they used the Doppler, and that was the first time that we'd heard the heartbeat, so it was really reassuring. When I got to about 30 weeks pregnant, I started thinking quite seriously about how I wanted to give birth and where, because I hadn't really enjoyed the experience the first time round. So I decided to have a home birth, and I began doing natal hypnotherapy, self-hypnosis. So I spoke to the midwives about that at around 32 weeks. And the first reaction I got was to be given a list of things that I would need if we had a home birth, and I was told about all the things that could go wrong and all the risks. And so I did come away from that appointment thinking perhaps it wasn't the midwife's first choice to attend home births. But once I went back and said, no, we're going for it, I felt really supported in that decision, and that every step of the way everyone tried to let me be in charge of what I wanted and give me the choices I'd gone for. In the later stages, a health visitor came to the house and told me about what their role would be, and also I'd had postnatal depression after my first child, and they'd picked up on that from my medical notes and wanted to make sure that I felt, they wanted to know if I was worried about that happening again, and to just reassure me that they were here and on the lookout and things like that. So I went into labour a week after my due date. So the midwife arrived at 3 and I was just kneeling down in the pool, and then I just stayed like that for about 4 hours and nothing really changed. In all the hypnotherapy books I'd read, they said don't push because other people are telling you to push, wait for the sensation to push yourself. And I just didn't have it, so I got a bit confused. As I was getting weaker and less, losing my confidence, started to get really tired, and the midwives didn't know why things weren't progressing. And I could feel the baby's head with my fingers, but I could tell that over the 4 hours it hadn't moved, and I just felt like nothing was going to happen. So I said to everybody that I wanted to go into hospital because I was worried that maybe something was wrong. Once I was there, I was having really strong contractions, but I still didn't think that I was meant to push because I had no urge to push. Another midwife came in, and who was really sort of strong and assertive and bossy, which is really what I needed at that point. And she said, stop wasting your contractions, you're wasting them, you've got to push this baby out, you've got to push her out now. I can remember resisting them, but they were very determined, and I think they're all shouting, push, push, and then within 5 minutes she came out. So yeah, it was all a bit confusing because I thought that I'd researched so much and knew exactly how it was going to be, and I'd put in my birthing notes, don't tell me when to push, I'll push when I'm ready, and all this kind of stuff. I hadn't wanted to go to hospital, but in the end I'm really glad that we did, because it was all over really quickly once everyone else took charge of the situation. The midwives that came round for the home birth I hadn't met before, and I don't think they were from the Rose team, maybe they were busy, I think they'd come from somewhere else. I don't feel like I really had any contact with the midwives when they arrived. I didn't really speak to them. I appreciated the midwives who arrived respecting my wish to be left alone and do hypnobirthing and be in the pool and everything. But I think that perhaps once they realised that I wasn't progressing, and that nothing was really changing, and that it would have been more helpful to me if they could have read the situation better and seen that I was getting tired and frustrated and not coping that well over such a long amount of time with the pain, and thought to themselves, okay, I think it's time for us to stand up and say, right, come on, we know that's what you wanted, but let's get this done now. Why don't you try coming out of the pool, try lying down, and maybe just have been a bit more assertive and a bit more in control of the situation, and given me some direction. I think if that had happened, then maybe I would have managed to successfully give birth at home, and it might have been quicker. We had our own room and we just stayed there all day for about 12 hours. I didn't feel that we were left to fend for ourselves, because we knew that we had a particular midwife that was looking after us that day, and she had told us to ring the bell, and we'd rung it a couple of times to get help with various things. I think another midwife had come in and shown us how to put the baby to bed. We got home about 9:30 in the evening, and the next morning the midwife that I'd seen quite a few times while I was pregnant arrived and came upstairs and sat on the bed, and it was really nice to see her, and she would have checked the baby and checked that we were okay, and I asked her for some breastfeeding tips as well, and everything was fine. I can't remember, but I think a midwife came every day for a few days. The health visitor came round again. I feel like they were using the time to observe me with the baby, and they said that they could see that we'd bonded and that I was good at handling her, and they watched me change her and dress her and breastfeed her, things like that. We did talk a bit about the fact that I'd had postnatal depression before. They said they felt reassured that that we seemed fine, but that they were there if I ever needed to speak to them. I think midwives should always remember that there comes a point, if you've been in labour for a long time, where I think that you as the patient aren't really the best person to make the decisions anymore, and that the midwives, it'd be good if the midwives had the confidence to see when that point had been reached and step in and take over, really.